Hi, I'm Jim Zogby, and welcome back to Viewpoint. With me again is Maya Berry, my co-host. I'm being joined now by a group of Arab student activists who are here in the country. They're at the Maxwell School in Syracuse, and they're visiting Washington right now. We're not going to introduce each of them individually, but we're going to ask them questions, and they'll start with their names, because I want them to talk a little to us about their experiences here in the country, but also their experiences back home. Let me start with you, Dala, and tell us just a little about who you are, where you're from, but also a little about what you've experienced since you've been here in the States.
Okay. My name is Dala Ghandour. I'm from Lebanon. I'm a lawyer and mediator back home. And like in these past months in US, I think I discovered another way of life. It's not my first time in US, it's my fifth time. But like going to university and like looking at academics, the research, I was really impressed by the research, the amount of research people are doing. And also like the style of life, how people are so much taken in the everyday life. So they don't have time maybe to look around so much or to know much about our countries. But also I find it's very nice that just like people are willing to know, and this is what's important for me. So just like when I say I'm from Lebanon, they would say, like Lebanon, where is it? And I will be explaining, and they would be willing to know more. So this is the main thing.
Shata, let me ask you, you're here from Yemen, and Yemen is going through a difficult time. How have you found Americans' reactions to you and to your you being from Yemen? Did they ask? Are they curious? Do they want to know more? Or does it simply just roll off their backs and they don't even think about it?
Well, it depends to whom I'm talking to. Those in civil society kind of aware of the problem and the troubles in Yemen, and they're willing to help in different means, but then they mostly see Yemen through one lens, which is security lens, and then again, that's because of the American media, how they picture Yemen, and it's all about Al-Qaeda, and they forgot about 25 millions who are just as human as Americans and who have similar lives to Americans, and somehow the media kills that image and makes it only Osama bin Laden and beard and Al-Qaeda, which is totally different than the reality. But then there are normal people, everyday people in America who would never know where Yemen is located, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know why the lack of information is there, because in Yemen we would know much about America than American does about Yemen. So
you know, when we started the Iraq War in 2003, a poll was done. 11% of Americans could find Iraq on a map. That was it. Our education is not all that it ought to be. Let me go to you, Mona. You're from Kuwait, which is like many countries in the Arab world, a media-rich environment. What was your experience watching American television, reading American newspapers? Did you feel informed, in touch, able to connect with the events of the world? How did you feel about what you were reading and seeing?
It's kind of disappointing. Actually, just walking the streets and then telling people I'm from Kuwait and asking me, oh, it's that Saudi Arabia? Oh, how come you're here? It gives you a straight message that they don't know. Like, the media is not giving much information about us. It's just the disasters we have, just the bad side, not the good side, not how educated we are, how modern, how democratic we are. Actually, I see my country as too much given to democracy to the people, and this is I can't find the media's doing its
Mohammed, you're here from Morocco.
Yes.
And I want to. We were talking before we came in about what you all learned from each other. Talk to me a little about that, because I think part of the experience is not just learning from Americans, but you actually had a kind of rich experience with each other.
Yes, exactly. I think we are learning a double time in the program at Maxwell School, and also it's our professional affiliation in here in DC. but also from the other member of students with us. So we are learning how everybody from different background thinks and want to change their own situation in their homeland, and also we are learning how a good university and how a good academic world works on. So this is a good opportunity for us to learn in a good I lost I lost the line. Sorry, I want to. Can I hear you?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. For the first time, I feel that I'm student, and even if I am back home, I am PhD student in university. But for the first time, I feel that I'm in a real academic world, which give us the scientific infrastructure and the real way of learning things close to yes.
Let me go to Emna and ask you that you're from Tunisia, which for not just Arabs but for Americans became quite a symbol. President Obama speaks about it frequently when he talks about Arab Spring. I know Maya's going to want to ask you questions about Tunisia, but I want to ask you, when you say to people, "I'm from Tunisia," does it resonate? Do they know? Did they follow the experience of what happened in Tunisia over a year ago?
And thank you for your question. I'd like to say that for me it has always been a symbol, and I'm glad that it's becoming a symbol for other people now as well. I think we have been really privileged. Like we met like people really educated either at Maxwell University or here in Washington. So I don't think it's really a good benchmark to say whether people know or don't know about Tunisia. But I have really been impressed by the number of academicians and professors that are talking about Tunisia now and really studying the case. Yeah. And I found some of the analysis, especially the one from Eva Belin, really targeted and very interesting. So this is really pleasant to hear and to see that people are really like doing research and trying to understand like the complexity of the society.
You're from Gaza,
yes,
which is another kind of symbol here in America. Mm-hmm. How did people react to that, and what kinds of questions have you gotten?
First, how people react usually, as Amna said, we are dealing mostly with academics and we are dealing with the people that are educated, so everyone knows about Gaza. And I was even surprised sometimes in the metro or in some other shops, they know about Gaza, but not always. The first question that I'm usually asked is about Hamas and human rights and civil liberties and this stuff about Gazans and if I'm enjoying my rights or not. And I am really sometimes disappointed because what they first think about Gaza is that it's a bunch of terrorists running around. I work in Gaza at the UNRWA, it's the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees. And the first thing I think about Gaza, what I see from Gaza is those little beautiful, dirty, miserable kids that are running in the camps and playing and happy, really happy with their miserable life. And they know nothing else in life than this camp, this horrible situation camp. And when I think about them, how they will grow up and how they will become when they're 18 and 19 frustrated, that I think what the universe see from Gaza. But they don't see the reality, the 1.5 million people that are really civilians wanting to live. And that's what I try to convey here. Because they usually ask about the freedoms and the civil liberties. We are under siege. We are under occupation. So which freedoms?
Ahmed, what was the most, when you think about this trip to date, what's the most sort of poignant experience, the most powerful experience you've had so far, the most memorable that'll stick out for you?
Right, as my colleague said, I was impressed by by two things. The first thing is the relationship that can be established between research and policy making, and the think tanks, the amount and the intensive work that think tanks here are doing. The second thing is the strength of civil society and the amount and the quality of work that they are doing. And I really, I was inspired by the quality of work that they are doing.
Maya.
Shasta, I want to start with you as a journalist in Yemen, as a writer, particularly someone who works a lot with young people. After your experience here in Washington in particular, as opposed to Syracuse, which could be another conversation, what would you take back that might alter how you do your work in Yemen?
First of all, I will take back pain because as I see American live in a different level of life that we live at in Yemen. We're full of conflict and full of hopes to get done with this conflict and start establishing our own country. So it's just painful that people can live in a way that you just dream of and seems like never happened. Regarding the professional work, I guess I realize now more how to humanize a story. It's what gets to the people's heart and what forces the others around the world to listen to it. So what I'm thinking now is to make more personal stories and to touch more on a personal level, to show what kind of corrupt system we had and what kind of want we had with all the wars we had in Yemen and what happened during the revolution. And so I think in just discussing or writing a story in a wider level, like what politicians says or whatever, would not get us to anywhere. So we should care for the people more. We should start humanizing the stories more.
You know, Shasta mentioned when you said folks encounter you from Yemen, the perception is automatically a conversation about terrorism. And you made your point about not a lot of conversation about Yemeni people. But post-Arab Spring, there really has been a transformation here in the U.S. in terms of our perspective about the Arab world. The Occupy movement is something that really was inspired by young people like yourselves from the region. After Tunisia broke, there were moments where we were all Tunisian and then we were all Egyptians. There really is a very strong American affiliation post-Arab Spring. As you sort of leave this program and then go back, what are your hopes for your individual countries, given the transformation that sort of started and then your own experience here? I mean, go to you, Mona, in Kuwait.
Actually, I'm not seeking any political change in Kuwait, like in the government, but I'm seeking change in the society itself. I'm here to learn about civic education, and I really think people in my country should learn more about how to be more aware of their rights and how to deal with each other, and also, most important, human rights. And this is what I'm seeking here.
I mean, Ahmed, what is your sort of take on civil society having been here?
For Algeria, Algeria has not experienced Arab Spring yet. And I think that revolution is a thorny tree. And if we want to grab a fruit, we have to bleed. And I think we don't need to go to that tree. We Algerians have a very long history, and we have many lessons. And we can benefit from the lessons without going to bleed and to experience the pain that the other countries have. So I am imagining, I'm very optimistic about the future of Algeria, where we have to understand the lessons. We have to lessen corruption, and we have to provide people with jobs and better their lives. That's how we can overcome the crisis.
Tal, you mentioned your work in Lebanon
Yes.
as an attorney, and you've done a lot of work specifically targeting young people and women in terms of empowerment projects. What do you hope to see in terms of Lebanon's dynamic with regards to those issues?
You know, just like in US, I also learned that democracy is not ideal, as all countries. And you have also like the African American community that has been for long, that has been, like marginalized and segregated. And I see that people are still struggling till this date. But just like there, you have also other people who are trying to make it a better world for them. So I think in every society, like the one also I live in Lebanon, or you have different sects, you have always struggles and conflicts, but people should go to each other. They should go and try and earn this so-called democracy. So just like we should also understand the other, from where the other come from, so we can build a better state. So this is my hope for Lebanon, especially in this very dramatic situation there.
Raghda, you mentioned the obvious point, which is that having conversation about rights under occupation is a particularly challenging conversation. What are your hopes for Gaza?
I have many hopes for Gaza. First, I would love to see democracy in Gaza. I would love to see our children learning about it at schools. I would love to see them implementing human rights, implementing democracy and living it. I would love to see the future generations enjoying that and enjoying peace. I would love to see tolerance there. It's the whole bulk. I want it all for my country, and I believe they deserve it. We deserve it. They're strong people, and they deserve to live in peace.
That's wonderful. Now you started it all. That's how we all talk about Tunisia now. Having started it all, when you get back, tell us a bit about some of the work you'll be doing there.
I work in an NGO. I mean, it's my second life. It's not my first job, but it's my second life, and it's a very important life for me. We have an NGO called Khamam wa Qarar, means think and decide. We really want people to think and decide for themselves, because we are really like fed up of hearing politicians saying people want this, people want that. So this is why in partnership with 5 other NGOs, we started a project called Bus Citoyen, where we are doing constitutional monitoring, and in a simple way we are collecting information from the deputies at the National Constituent Assembly, and we are popularizing the content, and we are spreading it like to the people, for the people to understand what it is about, to know, to decrease the gap between politics and day-to-day life. And I think it's very important to increase political awareness, because these decisions are not decisions that should be taken by elites, but they should be like, it's our whole future, all of us. So we should participate in building it. But we struggle, and I would like to call the deputies in the assembly to share more information with us, because we are here to help them, not to be in opposition.
Ahmed, when you were talking, it made me think of a story. We had a legislative exchange program once when some folks came over to observe the U.S. Congress, and a member in particular was most excited about one aspect of all of our governance, and it was the Congressional Research Service. It was to him one of the most important things he saw, that you have staff to devote time to research these issues, and that's what informs how you legislate. When you were talking as a researcher, with excitement about that work, tell us a bit about what you would hope to do when you get back to Morocco, having that experience.
Yes, I think it's a very important question, because my main work is in research field. So come back Morocco, and since the Arab Spring started, I wrote a lot of articles, and I think sometimes the pen have impact more than thanks. So I think when I come back, I will focus more about how to enlarge awareness of people, and how to widen their way of thinking, and their critical thinking also. So in Morocco, we have a specific situation. Yes, we are not talking about exception, but about specificity. We did not make a revolution, nor a static quo. So we have a third path, which is reform from within, and we have a smart king, which started very important reforms in Morocco. So we should enlarge this margin of reforms by giving people power. So what we need in Morocco and is that to give to young people, educated people, tools of analysis and for choosing, and for also struggling for more democratic tools in society. This is one hand. In the other hand, I think we need more focus on research, because it's the elevator of awareness of people. So I think when I come back, I will work with my friends to write policy briefs and analysis, to focus more about what happened during all this period, and to assess the actual situation, to look for the future.
I have a couple questions that I want to ask as a group. It's a small group, but we do polling, you know, a lot of polling in the Middle East, and so I want to ask some of the questions that we ask. You were here in the U.S. for a couple of months so far, and another one to go. Is your impression of the U.S. better than it was before you came, or worse? Or is it the same? Who says better? That's one. Just raise your hand. Okay, better. Who says it's worse? 1. And who says it's about the same you expected?
I say better in some ways and worse in others.
In our polling, we can't accept that as an answer. Now I want to ask you about your country. Is your country on the right track or wrong track? Are you optimistic about the future of your country, or do you think that there's a rough road ahead? Who thinks it's on the moving on the right track?
I think it's both.
Right track, how many? Okay, and who thinks their country's on the wrong track? That's easy to say for Lebanon. That's usually the answer we get. And who thinks it's kind of like in a very complicated situation and it's too early to tell? You know what's interesting? We polled in Tunisia back in November, and we asked that question. In every Arab country, we got majority, almost all the answers were either right track or wrong track. In Tunisia, 40% said they couldn't tell, which is exactly where you are on the numbers. I want to go back to Dala. The Lebanon situation is complicated and stressful right now, and you're going back to it.
Definitely, yes.
In a year.
There is.
I'm sorry, within a month. What do you expect? What do you expect to find?
I see that just like the society would be more divided. So now you have like intrasect people like going against each other, and every time all our conflicts are being dealt in the street. I think the real problem comes back that we didn't heal our own wounds of the Lebanese civil war. That we just like passed to another page, and we didn't really look and just like said this is the victims, these are the perpetrators. Just like we need more like truth and reconciliation committee like South Africa. We need to bring people together so they could trust each other so to build a state.
Let me go to Yemen for just a minute to Shatha, and that is the issue of the strife in Yemen, which has not ended, and it continues in the papers every day. Are you worried about it? What you'll find in can Yemen heal its wounds? It's been since unity that was not accepted by a part of the population, and it's continued. How do you feel about the future of the country?
Well, first of all, I worry about every aspect about my country. Mm-hmm. It seems like when you read the news, when you're there, it seems like it's a struggle that has no end. Especially that there are too many actors that are involved in the external intervention, and then it's just like you cannot stop the time to start build the country. So the future is unpredictable. And that's what we learn about talking about Yemen politics. It's unpredictable, but we always have hope, and we cannot give up hope after a year of protesting. Now, after all the loss that we had, we cannot just stop struggling. If we started it, so we have to continue.
Ragda, are you afraid for the future of Gaza? And do you feel after all of these years that unity can actually exist among Palestinians? It's a huge question because the physical separation of Gaza and the West Bank now for well over a decade.
Well, I hope that unity this time will work. I have my doubts, but I really hope that it will work because of the people again. The political situations and the international situations and the international stance are really somehow against Gaza, but I have big trust and belief in the power of Gaza people.
Okay.
They're a very, very strong nation.
Thank you. Maya? We have about 4 minutes left.
Well, I'd love to hear from each of you on this point. One of the things that people talk about in terms of big ideas for democracy, talk about, we had an election, therefore it's more democratic. But as you know, civil society is not about just those things. There are a lot of things to do in order to make a more vibrant society. What is sort of, if you could, just one thing that you would hope could change back home in each of your countries that you really think might be perhaps small or big, but would have a real impact? You just start with.
First of all, I think accepting others is more important. To be an open-minded. Open-minded means to accept the differences in the other person. We are all different from each other. Even if you are brother and sister, of course you are different in gender. So this is the biggest difference. So just the first step for democracy is to accept the other.
Let me go to you. Yeah.
I think the culture of volunteering and feelings of solidarity within the society itself, between all the regions of the society, will be a good elevator for the civil society in my country.
Okay, let me go to you.
I think civil society has a great role to play, because especially that it is very weak in our country, and I think it's really pivotal for a democracy. You need this pillar, and you need this pillar to be strong, to build bridges between like civil society, public sector and private sector. I think it's very important, and people like raise their voice, and now they don't wanna
I went to conferences in Tunisia over the last 15 years, and every time I'd go on democracy, the question was the issue of women's rights. Are you afraid of the future of women's rights in your country, or do you think that they're secure no matter who governs? And I only 30 seconds.
I'm not afraid.
Okay.
I'm not afraid because I think it's because I'm involved that I'm not afraid.
Okay.
And I'm really urging people to get involved and to engage. It's very important on any point, and to engage in any way on any crucial thing that matters to them.
You're going to get the last word.
I think that Algeria is a country with plenty of resources, and people in Algeria deserve better lives. And I think the one enemy to the Algerian society is corruption and nepotism, which takes away jobs and opportunities from people. I think this is, if I think of my ultimate objective is to fight this illness.
We have a minute left. Do you want to close out with anything?
No, let's hear from the,
I just wanted to say that for Lebanon, I think like citizens must be more responsible of their life, and I think just like that we are all guilty of apathy. So that the silent majority who is being silent for too long must speak.
Did you have something around that in terms of?
Yeah. As for my country, I wish to see tolerance, acceptance, and cooperation. That's what we really need: cooperation between everyone and respect towards everyone in the society.
I think you get the last one.
Justice.
Justice.
Thank you all so very much for joining us, and thank those of you for watching the program. I want to thank Maya Berry for joining me, and I want to thank my guests from across the Arab world who got to know America and got to know each other. You can join us on our website at aaiusa.org. We'll see you next week on Viewpoint.